What is up, DTube? What is up, Steam blockchain? So, yesterday I was considering a topic to discuss for today, and I came up with goodbye middleman. So, I was using the internet yesterday and I was looking at on Twitter and looking at various companies. For example, in Sweden, you have a lot of these, let's say, consult firms, and it's something that you have in many countries. You have people going to conferences and discussing the future, and they're discussing they're consulting firms for various companies, and they're looking at how they can give guidance to companies. And what really did strike me about this, that okay, they're going to conferences, it's kind of interesting, but in many aspects doing videos like this, it's kind of already like a conference, but it's decentralized, and it just makes more sense to have a direct connection to a source. And yeah, and then I was thinking a little bit deeper about that. Okay, so direct access to a source, and something that we know in this industry, when people send value to each other, it is you don't need a third party, as we used with, for example, banks. And for many regular people, when they just live their day-to-day life, they may not consider the third party. So maybe they see it as, well, I can use a bank and I can send value to a friend. And even many banks are now starting to become very efficient, so you almost don't even feel that there is a third party involved, because maybe they've created an app for phones and it's the banks that are behind it. But it sort of feels like there is no third party in here, there's no middleman here, but it is. And when we start to look into the direct access and truly no middleman, it kind of like the effect it's gonna have is quite interesting, because seeing all these conferences and seeing that take place, and also people sort of event jobs so they can get paid in the old system, it's kind of interesting to see how most of these jobs, like really when you listen to people, what they talk about in the future, and you sort of see that most of their jobs are not really going to be needed. All these middleman tasks, there really is not going to be any need for it, because humans are going to work like an antenna. Just as when a person turns on their TV and they just have access instantly, they just want to click the TV or click the remote control, and their TV just pours life into their room, just by them having, in the past, people used an antenna, but now maybe they have a cable or whatever. But the key thing here is they just click a button and then they have access to the world. There's no middleman, or well, it is a middleman that has the cable company and stuff like that, but you kind of get the idea of there's no middleman between what you're seeing on your eyes and what goes on the TV. You have perfect access to the source, and I guess that's one good way of framing it. Perfect access to the source, going the bird path, basically going straight to the source, going straight to what you want. It really becomes this interesting goodbye chapter to everything that takes time and energy, too much resources, that is sort of inefficient. And this is kind of interesting. We have seen with even the online world in many aspects. I sort of feel that even the idea of comments in the long run is not going to play a big role, because people want the source, they want the article. And yes, sometimes people want to dive into comments, but most of that, I think, eventually is going to be in an article or in a direct source. And that, just as with when people when people watch stuff on a TV and they go straight to the source, no middleman that slows stuff down. And it's kind of like a good metaphor, even though it's a little bit different compared to when you send a transaction and someone's taking a fee. But when people when people turn on a TV and they get access to the source instantly, there is nobody that is or maybe is 1% that would be interested in commentary on the source. Most people are just going to be satisfied getting a quality experience of whatever it is that they want more of. And in many aspects, comments, I think, is going to move to private chats, because that is, again, a more targeted form of commenting, where you have direct access to a person, to a source, and you really get niche based information that you want in that exact moment. No middleman, go instantly to the source. This is really going to be why I think comment sections in the future may not be a big thing, that people are just going to do that in other places. But the interesting aspect really is the no need for humans to have menial jobs, menial tasks, weird middleman sort of jobs, right? Is kind of confusing. So it's really fun to talk about. It's really fun to talk about, because this time, especially this time, is somewhat unique in the way of it's unique because we can see how, especially now in the next 10 years, we can see that there really is going to be some dramatic changes that has never happened before on this planet in this way. Well, of course, we're guessing a little bit right now. This may have happened in the past. We may live in an infinite universe of different potentials. But one big aspect of this, also when there's no need for a middleman, is what I think is going to happen is that we may even see social media sort of be of no use or be of no need, because if a person is just plugged into the exact targeted niche information that they want, what's the point of social media? Social media right now, how it works is you sort of enter a page, enter a feed, and you scroll and you sort of get information, right? But if we're gonna be realistic, it's not really super targeted information, as in this is exactly what you want, or at least that's my guess of it. My guess of it eventually is that people are gonna niche down their what they're using in life. So they're gonna move more towards true expert information. And this gets really interesting, because this is sort of, in many aspects, a whole unexplored territory. Because when people are truly going to dive deep into expert sources, it means you're going to have humans that are going to be super targeted at satisfying maybe use one or two people, you're satisfying one source, and and that can be their whole life. A person can instead of the way we've looked at fans and all that in the past, that a person need a massive fan base, millions of fans to make money. How it's gonna work in the future is you're only gonna need like one person to satisfy, and you can be famous in that way, which is sort of cool, right? It's sort of cool because it sort of opens up the window for a person to just satisfying one source, one node, and just because there's no middleman, there's no need sort of to, for example, go out in the world and have middleman that sort of handles that person's fame or whatever. There's no middleman that sort of takes cuts of fees eventually, even though there's going to be, I mean, in some aspect you can argue, well, code is the middleman, but I think, yeah, no, it's not really, I would say. But or maybe you could say middle code or whatever. But it's cool. It's very cool. I think more people are they're gonna consider a little bit more about the aspect of that their phone is already, and I talked about this a little bit in the past, but that the phone is already a virtual world. It's a virtual reality, and stuff that people have been focusing on, for example, moment to moment, everything is changing in the universe. Everything is changing constantly. I can give an example. Let's say a person is collecting followers on let's say an Instagram or whatever, on YouTube. Well, when we started off in a physical world, and that idea was in a person's mind, a person started off looking at followers as real humans. Oh, each follower is a real human. This is in the real world. But eventually, when we dematerialize the world, it eventually moves to a state where you look at 1 million followers as this is just some stuff on a screen. Does the value really have any relevance to the real world? And it gets really interesting when we start to look at this in terms of tokens, where you look at, okay, wait a sec, one token, let's say one token and $1, or that it's the same amount, right? But then you really start to look at the more opportunities you have with the token, how it can move faster, and how it's more dematerialized, and how you sort of a US, let's say as a US dollar token, let's say, it travels farther. You can do much more with it because it saves you time and energy, and there's more opportunity in the virtual world. So even if it's the same value, it can do more, and that also dematerializes it, and it also makes it so the middleman aspect of handling something that's visual, it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. And I like to repeat this because I like to remind myself about it, and I also like to sort of try to get out various concepts and sort of put them in the world, so I can get a whole range of new ideas. And this is quite fun to do. This is quite fun to do. And a person may say, well, what is all the middleman gonna do? They're also gonna benefit. They're also gonna benefit because it's used technology. Everyone can use it, and it's not gonna be a need for a job. There's not gonna be a need for some leech or some kind of feature like that in a perfect peer-to-peer system. Even though we've had peer-to-peer technology quite a long time, it takes decades for it to roll out and for it to be adopted. And it takes decades for humans to create new systems, new models, new business models around peer-to-peer. And a lot of people, they like to come to fast conclusions because it's easier. Of course, it takes less time and energy by saying, well, peer-to-peer, it's been here, now it's no longer relevant. But it is. It's just that it takes time. Just that it takes time, and it's just that there's so many people that are competing for a person's attention. But especially now with the blockchain technology, we're really starting to see that people so much easier can access a source, so much easier can see transparency. And now, even though it's, as I said in the past many times, it's not even close to perfect, but it's way, way better than the older sort of systems. And I think the physical world, as I saw another guy talking a little bit about it, I think it's gonna move more into a very interesting playground. Maybe that is why I like to walk in nature when I'm doing this, because I don't know, the physical is fascinating. It is an interesting playground, something that you can go into and sort of have new interesting experiences. And we're gonna see more of the world when it's better decentralized, because there's so much going on in the physical world, and it's so hard to sort of capture it in just one location, because it will be so expensive that a human almost needs their own hardware, their own software, to be able to expand properly. Maybe even a hologram, who knows? Their own token, their own networks. Of course, we are a part of nature, right? So nature has been here a long time. And what do we see in nature? We see all these trees, and personally they look pretty decentralized. It doesn't look like they are ruled by one central place. So yeah, we have to say goodbye to the role of middlemen in terms of fees and in terms of basically limiting a human's potential by not giving them access to the source, to whatever now it is a human want. It's going to be interesting to see all of this play out. It's because humans are limited in knowledge. We're always going to be. Our borders of ignorance can only expand, but still know so little. So all of a human's ideas can change from day to day, okay? But we can also see a track record of most things. Which is kind of interesting. So yeah, have a great day, DTube. Have an awesome day. Steam, blockchain. Bye-bye.